You guys feeling good? No hangovers? Are you going to turn around and lie to your parents starting off? Is that what you're going to do? I feel terrific, and I'm really happy to be here. You know, I'm an old geezer, so I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. Because if you were standing where I'm standing right now, and you're going to tell me how to live my life, man, I'd turn that radio dial and I'd switch it real quick, so I'm not going to do that. But to show you how old geezer I am, I did the first radio broadcast in this building, play-by-play. So I'm an old man. But I'll tell you, I'm surprised to be here. Honored, but surprised. When I got the call from the alumni office about coming here, now I know dollars are tight in today's times with education, but the call came collect. But I'm here anyway. And the truth is, when I got the note on the internet about asking me to come here, I tingled. It's okay to admit that. It's okay to cry. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to smile. It's okay to show emotions. I tingled. I thought it was great. It's the first time I've been back since 1975. Hollywood is a lot cleaner. What I asked Dr. Taylor to do, and I do it all the time, that the introduction is short because we've all been stuck hearing speakers like me. And what happens is the longer the introduction goes on, the better probability y'all are going to fall asleep. And so I figured if anybody's going to put you to sleep, let me do it, not to Dr. Taylor, right? The other thing is, if you start hearing about all the stuff I've done, who cares? It doesn't matter that I've been on ESPN hundreds of times, CNN many times. See, I'll put you to sleep. It doesn't matter. Now, the important thing is that I am not important. The important thing is that you are important. The name of my company on the side is called It's Your Choice because I believe in my heart, all of us, we all have more power over who we are and what we become than we realize. And once we realize it, wow, it's amazing what you can do. So for the next couple of moments, I want you to keep one word in your mind. It's the favorite word of one of the great actors of all time, Paul Newman. And the word in the English language that Paul Newman likes the least is cement. Why cement? Well, think about it. The obvious, the lack of flexibility. So for the next couple of minutes, let's take a little trip together and have no flexibility. You might decide you like some of the things that we talk about. You might decide you like nothing. It is your choice to do whatever you want. A couple years ago, I got into sayings and expressions, and my favorite one is, if you continue to think the way you've always thought, you'll continue to get what you've always got. If you continue to think the way you've always thought, you'll continue to get what you've always got. If you continue to think the way you've always thought, I promise you, you will continue to get what you've always got. See, the only thing I can do right now is talk from my heart because that's all I've got. My whole life has been built upon passion, emotion, and doing what I want. And it works for me. Now, hopefully, all of you and everybody up here will live to be 100 years old. Hopefully. But if it doesn't work, and I don't mean to be morbid on this wonderful day, just for a moment, think to yourself about your epitaph and how you'd like to be remembered. Remember, I'm not important, you're important. Share that with yourself. Now, if you're doing all the things along the lines in a manner in which you'd like to be remembered, that's pretty cool. If you're not, don't beat yourself up, but you have plenty of time to change. And if you don't change, shame on you, because it is your choice. One of the great American poets and authors once said, Carl Sandburg, it all starts with a dream. It's my opinion the number one problem in America, in this great country, is that kids don't dream. And then they grow up to be old geezers. If every child in this country had something to dream about, and then they did it with passion, with heart, this great country would be so much better. My little dream was to be a sportscaster. So I've been living my dream out. And if you choose, every one of you can live out your dream. And if you don't have a dream, look for it. You might not find it today. You might have it today. But if you look, you will definitely find it. So what I've been doing for about the past 35 years is I've been studying winners. And when you do sports for a living, you sort of find out very quickly you better keep things simple, especially for myself. So if you want to be a winner, study winner. If you want to be happy, look at happy people. If you want to be rich, study people who've become wealthy. And so I've put this little thing together about winners. And the obvious conclusion is no one has been put on this earth to fail. No one. We could just as easily teach everyone how to succeed, but sometimes we don't. The one thing I've learned about athletics over 30 years is that all athletes have one thing in common. Some do it with passion, some do it with heart, but they all have one thing in common, the ability to focus in that moment. Can you imagine being a baseball player, somebody throwing a fastball 87 miles an hour and you're at the plate and you're not focusing? Ooh, my, you're in trouble. And the properties of winners, it really doesn't matter if you're an athlete or a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or an insurance salesman or a plumber. It doesn't matter. The property of winners, it's all the same. And you can take the applications and put it into your profession and it all works. So I have this thing called the secrets of being a winner. Secret number one, we all choke. So if you're saying to yourself, wait a second, I'm here to talk about winners, and the first secret is about choking? Absolutely. Let's be honest. I choke, you choke, your parents choke, everybody chokes. We all make mistakes. How we deal with it is vitally important. A couple years ago, I'm interviewing a man named Lee Trevino, one of the greatest golfers in the world, and he said, and this is a quote, "Alan, the winner is the one who chokes the least." And I said, well, wait a second. Lee, you mean to tell me when you win a golf tournament on Sunday and picking up a check for $100,000, $150,000 that you've choked during that week? He said, absolutely. But I choke less than the other guy. Now, either everybody in this room has either played golf or knows a little bit about golf. Anybody who's played golf has stood over a putt, I'm sure. Anybody who hasn't missed? That you just missed a 2-foot putt on the 15th hole, and you have the same putt on the 16th hole. If you're thinking about that putt that you missed the hole before, what are the odds you're going to miss it? Succeeding in sports is no different than succeeding in life. It's all about making peace with your past. It's just that simple. My favorite professor of all time was a history professor here at Cortland named Doc Johnson. And I'm sure some of you got to know him. The best way to describe Doc Johnson was he once gave us a lecture on World War II. He walked in, put his briefcase down. The lecture was 45 minutes. He never said a blessed word in English. And the only thing I can tell you is that we all understood what he was talking about. He was a great man. And one day in class, he asked, who is the man most prepared in the 20th century to be president of the United States? And I sheepishly raised my hand and said, Richard Nixon. Now, I was not a fan of Richard Nixon, but that wasn't the question. The question was, who is the man most prepared in the 20th century to be president of the United States? And those of you who knew Dr. Johnson knew he was very theatrical. And he kind of paced up and down and kind of did one of these and grumbled and said, Mr. Cutler, you're right, which, of course, I was very relieved. You see, Richard Nixon understood what internet was all about way before his time. Richard Nixon was trained to be a great president. Richard Nixon was one of the worst presidents of all time. And the reason being is Richard Nixon had a problem. Richard Nixon's problem was with Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon, he had a meager upbringing. He was always competing with the Kennedys, who he said grew up with a silver spoon, and his upbringing was terrible. And because Richard Nixon didn't like Richard Nixon, it clouded his ability to make decisions. It's really important that you like yourself. It's vitally important. Respect yourself, like yourself, cherish yourself, and if you don't now, work on it, because your whole life will change. Secret number 2, I call it doing your daily mental push-ups. Who's the most important person you talk to every day? My wife is my best friend. I love my children dearly. But they are not the most important people I talk to every day. See, I believe in that theory that you speak your world into existence. I'm the most important person I talk to. You're the most important person that you talk to. 1969, I'm a kid growing up, and the New York Mets are in the World Series, which they shouldn't have been, but they were surprised that year. They're playing the Baltimore Orioles. It's a guy out for Baltimore named Brooks Robinson, Hall of Famer, great guy, positive guy, leader on the team. Hits a fly ball to right center field. This clumsy right fielder that was so clumsy he turned out to be a sportscaster. Makes this great sliding, diving catch they've showed it thousands of times. Brooks Robinson is out. At that moment, Brooks Robinson said to himself, "We're going to lose." You speak your world into existence. I don't need to tell you who won the World Series in 1969. You know, most of us tune up our car once a year. You tune yourself up once a year? How about a little 20-second check daily and what it can do for you? Secret number 3. I've known great coaches, I've known good coaches, I've known lousy coaches, and they all have one thing in common. They all have a game plan. Can't imagine a coach going into a game, can you? Can you imagine any coach, even the Knicks last night, any coach going into a game without a game plan? Do you all have a game plan for your life? Now, if you don't beat yourself up about it. But start doing something about it today. Set goals. Put them on paper. Look at them. Some little school at Harvard once did a survey about those that not only set goals but wrote them down and looked at them and how much more successful that they were. There's a kid from Kentucky that you probably never heard of. You might someday, named Tim Couch. He's a quarterback. Kid's about 6'5". He's about 210. Has one of the great arms I've ever seen. And about 2 years ago, he broke more national high school passing records than anyone in the history of high school sports, so that's pretty good. And I'm interviewing Tim, and I said, Tim, why in the world did you break all these records? And it's not normal that you get really surprised by an answer when you're interviewing someone, just like a bad lawyer. My brother's here, he's a lawyer, I can say that. He said, I set goals. Kind of went like this. Tim, why'd you set goals? He said, because I went to summer camps and coaches were always talking about setting goals. I tried it, it worked, so I kept on doing it. Now, I would have preferred if Tim said he learned how to set goals in school, but he didn't. That's just the way it was in that case. Set goals. Get a game plan. Go for it. Secret number 4. This has saved my hide so many times you can't believe. Get a sense of humor. You got to have one. Life is tough. Get over it. Admit that life is tough. We're all going to have flat tires. How you deal with the flat tire is the key. True story. My brother can testify, although he wasn't there at the time. I'm not embellishing a syllable. I wanted to name my son Mickey Mantle. True. To show you who wears the pants in my family, that lasted about 1 second with my wife, Judy. The night JJ was born, we're putting the smock on and all that kind of stuff and walking down the hall with the doctor who's going to bounce my baby. Now, he bounces babies there all the time. And we're halfway down the hall. I swear to you, he says, Alan, we're walking the wrong way. Now, I'm a nervous wreck to begin with. And we were really worried about a complication that Judy might have, and thank God she didn't. But when the doctor's going to bounce your kid is walking the wrong way down the hall, that ain't cool, trust me. The delivery goes okay. Everything's cool. The doctor pulls out JJ, holds up my son for the first time for my wife to see. I swear to God, my son has this huge mustache on. What the doctor did is he put this big fake mustache in his pocket, pulled JJ out, slapped the sucker on, and held him up. God is my witness. Strike me down now. So now you have the normal emotion of delivery room, right? You know, besides the crying, you're laughing. You don't know what the heck to do. I mean, it's tears are coming down all over the place. And after we're done, the nurses were taking pictures with JJ with a mustache on and that kind of stuff. And on 11 o'clock, they don't let a TV camera into the room where they keep the kids. So the hospital was real cool. So they left the door open. My photographer stood on one side, and I held up JJ. I still have the tape. And JJ, first night he was on TV, a 2-minute stand-up with the mustache on. Later on, when things calmed down, I asked the doctor, because I didn't really know him. I'm a typical guy. My wife picks a doctor. I met him. She thought he was cool. What do I know? I mean, you know, come on, guys, you don't know anything. If you think you do, I asked the doctor, I said, come on, why in the world did you do this? And I didn't know him. He says, because you look like you have a sense of humor. Have a sense of humor. It gets you out of so many tough jams. Now, no matter how much pressure you have, keep your sense of humor. It'll save you. Secret number 5. You are a superstar. Do you know it? No, I'm serious. You are a superstar. And when you know it, that's when it's really cool. I didn't mean to be cocky about it or brag about it or flaunt about it, but know it inside. When I was a kid growing up, I used to gobble up anything I could in sports. And I used to read the sporting news, and I can remember it like it's yesterday. On the second page, they'd have 2 or 3 quotes of the week, and one of them was from a guy named Bear Bryant, who's the winningest coach in the history of college football. And he said, every year we have 2 or 3 superstars, the rest of them aren't, so we don't tell them. Think about it. I covered the last football game that Bear Bryant ever coached at Kentucky as a visitor. He was at Kentucky in the 50s, and they pushed him out because of jealousy, which is pretty stupid, but that's part of the real world. It was a beautiful Saturday. Game is tied at 6, fourth quarter. Alabama kicks a field goal on the kickoff team. Now, I do this for a living. I've seen plenty of football games, and I've never seen a play like this before, never since. Most of you know something about football. Man is going to catch the ball on the receiving end. They try to have a little wall in front of you for blocking. Well, a guy at Alabama who stood about 5'6" and weighed about 150 pounds leaped over the wall that Kentucky had put up, freaked out Kentucky, knocked the ball loose, and recovered the fumble that he created. One of the greatest plays I've ever seen. A couple plays later, Alabama scores a touchdown, the game is over. But that kid, you see, had no business being on the field. 5'6", 140, maybe 150 pounds. But you see, he played with heart, he played with passion, and no one told him he wasn't good enough to be there. So he just did it. It's amazing what you can do with heart and passion. Secret number 6, big surprise. At least 90% of who I am and what I've become is because of my attitude. I'd like to read a short poem that I wish I was smart enough to write. That's why I'm in broadcasting. I can't write. From Charles Swindoll. He said, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude in life. Attitude to me is more important than facts, more important than past education, than money, than circumstances, than failure, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It can make or break a company, a synagogue, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is that we have every day a choice regarding the attitude we embrace for that particular day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, one string, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. Secret number 7, the last secret. 2 most powerful words in the English language. 2 words that are not used enough. 2 words that should be shared when they mean something so much more. Thank you. It's a great 2 words. Use it more. Maybe say thank you to your parents today. One of my favorite singers of all time was Nat King Cole, and he once said, we all have a song to sing. I kind of twisted around and say, don't die with a song in you. Don't do it. Bernard Baruch was advisor of presidents from Woodrow Wilson to John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and he said, history doesn't repeat itself, but men make the same mistakes. Get a game plan. Find something you want to do. Do it with heart. Do it with passion. You can improve the world. I want to leave you with a story about my hero. He was a lawyer, went into business, and he failed. 2 years later, he decided to run for the legislature. Didn't work out. Went into business 2 years later, didn't work out. His girlfriend died a year later. He was devastated. A year after that, he had a nervous breakdown. Decided to run for public office 2 years later. 5 years later, he said, I'll run for Congress. 3 years later, Congress again, no. 2 years later, Congress again, no. 7 years later, wanted to be a senator, no. A year later, wanted to be vice president, no. 2 years later, senator became president of the United States. My hero, Abraham Lincoln. You know, for much of Abe Lincoln's life, many of his peers thought he was a failure. Give me a break. Would the Emancipation Proclamation been written if he didn't fail so much, if he didn't have an understanding what people's souls were really about? I think not. I promise you only one thing. Success is around the corner for you. What I don't know and what you don't know is how many corners you're going to have to turn until you find it. But if you don't quit, I promise you, you're going to find it. Where I come from in Kentucky, they have a short guy who used to be named Rick Pitino. And for him, success was 600 corners because it was 600 games when he won the national championship. Go for it. Good luck. God bless. Thanks for inviting me back.